I'm Mike Dimas, and this is Pinball Shenanigans. Okay, back at it. And as you can see, I have no more circuit boards. Actually, Russell is coming by soon, another London pinball shenanigander. We're going to ship our boards together to Brent and get them all serviced at the same time. Oh, I got a few things I had to remember here. Okay, remind me about the 4-digit display. But, okay, so, and then remind me about this harness as well. Because what we're going to do is, well, firstly, if you don't know about PinWiki, you should, if you're repairing anything pinball. This is the Pinball Bible, repair Bible, basically. So, this is the main page. Maybe I'll turn the flash off. That might look a little better. We'll go to, scroll down to Gottlieb System 80 stuff. Okay, so there's a couple things I'm going to show you for fun. This is the reset board that I was talking about in the last episode. The gist of it is that if the coils lock on, that board will reset the machine. Just turn it on and off. So at an arcade, that can be useful. If you're at home and stuff locks on, you can turn it off yourself. But it says something around, where does it say? As long as someone can turn the game off, should it lock up, there's no need to keep the reset board connected. In most cases, the aged reset boards are more troublesome if allowed to remain connected. But I did notice that if you do have it disconnected, they're saying that you should add this resistor to the CPU, which is right here on the connector for it. So if you're losing that connector, then you gotta compensate, but you don't need to for this diode. So I decided I'm probably just gonna leave it connected so I don't have to add this resistor. Well, actually, I could ask my board guy to just pop that on there since he has it. That's a good idea. He will have it soon, so maybe, and then I can just have all that whole circuit disconnected, and so there's some food for thought too. Okay, another note to self. Gonna have to remember all this. Okay, so, and then, okay, so what I'm gonna do today, these are the ground updates that I've been doing. As you can see, for example, CPU, it tells you where to attach your ground, like so. And the whole concept is that the designers of the boards didn't physically attach each board to a common ground plane, and relied on the connectors and wires between each board to create a common ground. A poor connection due to dirty, damaged, fatigued pins will sever the ground between the system's components, resulting in all sorts of odd behavior. To address this problem, it's important to examine each connector. So, you know, in theory, you could just repin everything, which is not easy. But the ultimate and recommended insurance is to add an additional wire from each board's ground to a common ground point. Historically recommended location is the power supply frame. And then it gets connected to a ground strip or transformer assembly. So I've done all that. And since doing that, my pop bumper's locked on. So I'll have to readdress that. Oh, did I skip right by this? Yes. Okay, this is what's next. This is the connector between the CPU and the driver board. Now, it's recommended to add an additional wire here and here. This blue and red wire are add-ons. That is, one is ground and one is 5 volts. So the connector does not have that, but it's an important power and ground update to double up the 5 volts and ground connections between the MPU and driver board. In order to do that, you need bifurcated terminals. What are bifurcated terminals? Here they are. They're kind of, at one point I think they were kind of like going extinct, but it appears as though Marco sells them. They're bifurcated because something to do with the two sides to the end of the terminal there, I think, or because the connector itself is like a double-sided connector, so maybe that's why it's bi. But they're like $2 each US, unless you can find them elsewhere, which, let's see, arcade parts and repair. Look at this, $35 for 18 to 20, 100 pack. Okay, so you just want to make sure you get the right gauge. But look at that, so it looks like they're getting reproduced. So 775 in stock. Okay, they're not extinct any longer. I don't think I've ever actually purchased any. Maybe like bought some off of Corey once, but I have a few. I only need 4 to do this job here, just like so. Get a couple pieces of wire. I believe I have 4, so that's what I'm going to do right now, and probably screw something up in the process, because everything I've done to improve the machine so far has made it worse. So let's see how far I can dig myself into a hole. Oh yeah, Russell was also asking if I had a Gottlieb crank for a flipper. So I went digging around, and look what I found while I was digging around for parts. I mean, I knew I had some, but these are specifically from Black Hole, so now I know that they're System 80, that era, because there are different variations of these over the years, different lengths and thicknesses of shafts and materials of shafts, and maybe length of threads, but now I know that this one is just the tiniest little bit loose here. You can see that? Oh, I turned my flash off. That one is a little bit loose. It should be okay, but this one, uh-oh, here it comes. Oh, bless me. So I'm going to use this. I don't know if you watched in the last video, one of the last videos, if you saw that the threads are broken off on one of my pop bumpers, and the nut is nowhere to be found. So that will go here. I love having spare Black Hole Playfield and parts to strip pieces from. It's very convenient. Alright, so I found my bag of bifurcated terminals, and I literally had 4 left, so it doesn't leave a whole lot of room for error. Now, I already did one, and might as well do the other one. I just chose a wire gauge that was the same as what's already on the harness. Didn't go any thicker or thinner. And I didn't really go fancy trying to match, like, I don't know, pick wire colors. It doesn't really matter what your wire colors are. You could go red for 5 volts, black for ground if you want to get all fancy. It's a pretty nice crimp. Give it a little tug there and make sure it doesn't pop off. And then they say try and put the terminal on opposite on the other end, so you're not twisting your wire when sticking it into the harness. So that's what I mean about double-sided harness. See how the bifurcated pins are on both sides? 2 wires, like so. So, is it bifurcated because it's got a little 2 pins, like a little snake's tongue? Or is it bifurcated because it's for a 2-sided connector? What is it? What is it? Alright, so let's do the other side here and try and get it in the opposite. So that looks like that. Alright, so we want to go the opposite this way, this time. because I tried that on the first one and it didn't really go all that well. It's basically the same on both sides. Okay, let's see how this one went. Okay, first of all, let's check that crimp. Looks good. Is it opposite? Kind of. Alright, well, let's just pop in these wires. Okay, so we use the inside hole first because that'll be harder to access if I do the outside one first. So let's see, these tongues want to go like so, right? Tongues on the inside, so like so. Boom, snapped right in there. Let's do both while we're on this tangent here. Pop this guy in. A nice little snap. And now, see, this is the twist they're talking about. Okay, this is where you don't want to screw up and accidentally put the 5 volts to the ground and the ground to the 5 volts, so be mindful. This is the inside connector. Okay, tongue on the inside. Click. Tongue on the inside. There it is. Okay, let's zoom out a little bit so you can see what the heck I'm doing. But that's it. Okay. I have now reinforced the ground and the 5 volts. This guy goes inside to the inside here. Yep, so I didn't screw it up. There. That's all it takes. You know, depends on how much you pay for the terminals. It's a pretty cheap ground improvement, so that is off the checklist. So let's see what I've screwed up once I put everything back together again. Alright, I'm just gonna like putter around, do random miscellaneous things now. Starting with cleaning the crud in the back of the head. Alright, that's a little better. Got a little dusty there. I think I'm gonna close the head now and maybe take a magic eraser to the head and just kind of see if I can clean that up a little bit. And maybe I should also see if I can address this blue blotch on the side of the cabinet here. Not really sure if that's paint or ink or what, but I don't have high hopes for that. But yeah, maybe I'll check into that as well. Okay, took a magic eraser to the head frame, the top. So all in all, there's some weird kind of like, I don't know what that is going on there. It's like textured. It's almost like, I don't know, weird glue or something. But all in all, it turned out pretty good. Cleaner than it was. Let's go to the other side. So, yeah, there's a couple scuffs that Magic Eraser was able to get rid of. I also did the back of the machine. It was pretty dirty, so it cleaned up pretty nice. Let's zoom out a little bit so we can actually see what we're doing here. So I mean, for the back of a machine, it's actually pretty nice. Cleaned the hole, the cord a bit. You can still see like the difference in yellowed where the leg ended in the original white, but it actually came out pretty good. All in all, oh, where's my towel? Yeah, so wiping down a piece of wood, it's a little bit easier than all these electronics and ground mods, so nice to take a little bit of break and do some kind of brainless work. And then, oh yeah, this blue spot, Let's just take a magic eraser to it just to see what happens here. Oh, look at that. It's actually coming off. Cool. We get to see it here live, boys and girls. Try not to spread the ink too far, but I don't know, screw it. I'm just gonna go lots of water. I'm not even using any cleaner right now. Often the magic eraser on its own is good enough. The thing you don't want to do is scrub too hard and then lose some of the paint behind it, which is very easy to do. But look at that. That's pretty satisfying. So it's almost all gone right now. Give me another minute and I'll show you the finished product. Okay, it's almost coming off. It's down to the last little bit. If you look closely, look at this. Come on, focus. Huh? I think they're fingerprints. We gotta maybe enlist my CSI pinball machine over there, the forensics team. Maybe find out who the culprit was. They left their friggin' fingerprints right there. Okay, well this side actually turned out pretty darn good. It looked like someone had cleaned it or tried to in the past and there was like dirt smears all over the place. But yeah, I guess since I'm gone this far I might as well keep moving along and do the other side and the front. Alright, so the side is all wiped down and dried off and actually looks a lot whiter than it used to. Look at that. Came out pretty nice. So now, move on to the front. I realize why this hole is there now. Because there's 4 holes. So that was probably a security feature for the arcade. And then someone just repurposed one of the holes with the cheater button, which I will probably just remove. But I do have some tape I've got to deal with. And then you can see the difference here in the white versus not white. But yep, that shouldn't be too much of a challenge. Alright, a little water, a little razor, and oh, it's not supposed to do that. Alright, I'm gonna mess with this tape, but I should be able to clear that off. Alright, those were the tools for the job. But got it done. I used rubbing alcohol for the kind of the really hard on, the adhesive that was on there for a long time and was hard. And I used the Goo Gone for the bit of tape that was left over and soaked it into the tape, and the little magic eraser to finish the job. The line kind of went all the way up, even on the plunger housing, and so that is all remedied now. Look at that. So I'm happy with that. I think I'm going to, since I'm on the coin door area, remove the cheater switch, replace the lock, and maybe touch up these chippy spots on the coin door. But look at this, it's got a actually nice looking barrel spring. Like, that's so rare. How is that possible? Ooh, it definitely needs to be taken apart and cleaned though. It's a little gummy, so who knows, maybe I'll do that too. Might as well. Okay, I have started on touching up the coin door, but I'm going to work on this. As you can see, the spring is not in good shape, and the spring isn't supposed to extend past the C-clip. The shooter tip is a POS. So once I get all this organized, and look, new lock and cheater switch gone, then I will show you the finished product of all of that crap. Okay, in true shenanigander fashion, while I was doing some paint touch-ups, I dropped the paintbrush and it bounced on both my pant legs, but I think I might have got it out. So I'm going to move on to the shooter rod. You can see the spring was in two pieces, and nothing a new spring and some cleaning can't remedy. So getting close to the finished frontal product. Alright, I think Operation Frontal is complete. So let's go over all the things I did. There's a bunch of little things. So here's the interlock switch, okay? So I mounted it here so that it is always closed. And it's very reversible, no problem. It's just two screws, stick it back where it once was. And this is very common practice, especially when a venue runs tournaments like Pinball or Papa. All their interlock switches are disabled. They're meant so that when you open the coin door, the high voltage is turned off and you don't electrocute yourself. But when you're playing in tournaments and balls get stuck and you want to release a ball from a spot that's stuck, you can open the coin door and then your flippers don't die on you. So you can hold a ball on the flipper, like say you're playing multi-ball, you got a ball on the flipper and one ball's stuck somewhere. Well, as soon as you open the coin door, it would normally just kill your flipper and you lose that ball. But not if you disable the interlock switch. So mine is now permanently closed, and that way when I open the coin door, the whole machine doesn't shut off. Gottlieb went a step further and didn't just disable the high power, it disabled the entire machine. So this is carried through System 3 games too, so like Street Fighter 2 and Cue Ball Wizard. You're playing a game at Papa and you open the coin door, the machine would just turn right off if the interlock switch wasn't disabled. So that's been done. So that's good. Okay, rebuilt the shooter rod. So this barrel spring was fine. Put in a new spring here. Cleaned up everything. Cleaned the inside of the nylon housing there. And voila. We got much better plungage. Okay, what else did we do? We got rid of... The paint's still a little bit wet. Got rid of the cheater switch. Cleaned up the door. Installed a new lock. Now, I'm starting to get turned on to these keyless locks. I didn't think I would ever be a keyless lock kind of guy, but installed a couple now. And Corey and Rob Noel, it's all your fault. So let's zoom out a bit, because this is a realistic perspective. I did touch-ups. You can probably see, it's still a little bit wet, on the coin door where there was some rusty spots. And it looks much better now. There was a giant rusty spot in the middle that's kind of still wet, but just, I'm not going too crazy, but just enough to make things much more pleasant. So I am happy with that. This is all the leftovers. That's from cleaning inside the housing of the shooter rod. The old interlock switch disabler, the old cheater switch, the shooter tip. So I'm going to add a colored shooter tip, probably yellow or red or something. Blue, maybe blue. But yeah, so that bunch of little things that added up to some niceness and the feeling of progress too, right? Like, what's this, episode 5, and I finally starting to feel like I'm moving forward. Just mostly cosmetics and whatnot, but it actually feels good to feel like I'm moving in the right direction for once. Alright, time to try and tidy up this cabinet a little bit. I'm not going to go too crazy on it, but it should be able to clean up a little better. I don't know, a lot of that is kind of stained, so I'll clean up all the loose bits and make it a little better anyways. Okay, it's not much of an after, but it's just stainy and kind of dirty, but it's not got a crap load of just bits and pieces floating around in there, so that's vacuumed out. It's probably about as far as I'm going to take it. you can't really get out those stains unless you like sand down there pretty good, and I'm not doing that. So check this out. One thing I forgot to mention, Gottlieb used a bunch of different setups for grounding onto their transformer panel. You can see there's all these spade connectors, and then they're connected through these Molex connectors. Okay, so that is a System 80A thing. So let's check this out. I was going to mention this before, but I just forgot. Okay, so on let me take this off. On the earlier System 80A games like Alien Star, this is how they did their grounding. All these spade connectors, but they don't go through Molex connectors. So basically they're saying that on Alien Star the grounds were attached discreetly on the transformer panel. These ground lines did not pass through a Molex connector. Why Gottlieb did not continue this practice is unknown. Basically saying, where did I read? Somewhere that is great, that is ideal. It would be nice if they kept doing that. So now we get into a little bit later, Ice Fever, the games, Touchdown, and here's the setup here, so you can see that. But what they're saying about that is that my whole point here is that there are ground improvements you can do on the transformer panel, and the Ice Fever, Touchdown, and the games, and Alien Star, the way they are fine. So where did it say that again? These connections, if the pins and the connectors are in good shape, are solid and do not require upgrade or modification, I'd say, most of the time people don't bother doing really any of these ground improvements, and I've done many machines in the past where I haven't bothered either. But nowadays I just feel like, hey, if I can improve the reliability without too much trouble, and now that I understand it better and know what I'm doing, I feel a little more inclined to do it. But it is good to know that I don't think I'll have to do any updates on the transformer panel itself. I also talked to my board guy about adding this resistor, since I might want to remove the reset board. He said it's not really needed. People just toss their reset boards in the trash and never had an issue, so I'll take his word for it. And the last thing is let's go Control F, slam switch modification. Okay, so there's I don't think I want to read all this, but this modification will prevent your machine from falsely doing a slam tilt on you, if I recall correctly. And the way to do that is right about here. You just add a little jumper between these two resistors on the MPU. Actually, that's a capacitor and that's a resistor. And just in case you are curious, maybe we will explain what the hell we were talking about here. Okay, so in order to test a CPU board on the bench, modification must be made to the CPU board. Oh, also my board guy Brent, he says that's something standard he does on every MPU System 80 that he repairs. That's a standard procedure. But I see why now, because apparently you need to bench test it, because modification must be made to the CPU board to make the CPU think that the slam switch is closed. If the CPU thinks the slam switch is not closed, it will not complete the boot process. So if I recall, I'll try and translate that really quickly. This switch on the door is a slam switch, and it is normally closed. And it needs to be normally closed. It needs to be making good connection, or else the game just won't boot up. So this is a failure point. So by adding that jumper, you're effectively closing that switch permanently and never run into any errors like that. So he's going to do that as well. And yeah, so I kind of worked today from the outside in, and guess I'm getting to the point where pretty much done with dealing with cabinet stuff, right? What's next? It's getting to be the Playfield. Yeah. Well, that's kind of feels like progress again. All right, well, maybe I will install this guy because it's a fairly simple procedure. So maybe that'll be next. All right, so here's my broken leg. See, my threads are gone. Oh, let's do this. But in order to remove this, I need to desolder the socket. And look at these solder joints are like right up in there. So this is not exactly ideal, easy, or simple. So I'm gonna have to snip off those legs and try and reuse them. If not, I do have a new old stock one I can use. And it's so old and stocky that I actually took a Dremel to the sides and the bottom. You can see the before and after to polish it up so that there's nice contact, and then I will have, you can see it's like kind of dull. I'll have to do the same for the legs if I have to cut this. Dremel the edges so that the solder will attach, but so I have to deal with that. Yay. Alright, so making progress. I've got the new ring and rod installed, and I have soldered on the new socket. In hindsight, I probably could have used the old socket because I ended up cutting the leg short. Anyways, I fed down the insulation so that nothing's gonna short. Trickiest thing about pop bumpers is getting the alignment and adjustment perfect. The alignment, you want the red post here of the skirt to be directly into the center of the spoon, and then you gotta like kind of activate your skirt and make sure it's kind of like equal all the way around. I was having problems where at certain points it would actually get stuck in a position like that. So I tried to clean it with Q-tips and rubbing alcohol without removing it. That just wasn't cutting it, so I removed the switch stack and cleaned the spoon with some like 600 sandpaper and a little bit of water, and really cleaned it, really centered it, really aligned it, and now it's not sticking anymore. So I'm very happy with that. And then of course the adjustment, you want to make sure that it is closing. It's got to be close enough that it is closing at every point on the skirt, but not close enough that it's gonna like, you know, the vibration of the pop bumper boom doesn't cause the switch to fire again, boom, and then causes it to fire again. You get like a machine gun effect because the vibration of the popping actually reverberates and causes the switch to trigger itself again. So it's got to be close enough that it registers, but not so close that you get machine gunning effect. So I cleaned up the switches, and I think I'm ready for reassembly. But pop bumpers, they're a bit of a pain in the butt. But this one is almost finished. All right, yes, because a 1/4 inch of thread was missing off of my ring and rod. That is what needed to be done in order to get her all fixed up. So, uh-oh, look at this. What I just found, diode is off. Wonder if that has anything to do with my pop bumpers locking on, because that would backfeed the voltage. Who knows? I'm gonna remedy that though. Let's turn on my soldering iron right away, get that fixed up. But yeah, so it's all back together again. It's all slingy and shoddy. Here is the old Mylar ring that was under there, the broken ring and rod, and the old socket, which I'm going to throw in my socket pile, because just as it's got short legs doesn't mean it can't run a long distance. So there may be some life left in this bad boy. So I will save that. This will go in the garbage. Perfectly good Mylar ring. You know, that's 30 years, and I don't know if it was adhesive at one point. But let's take a look at the top side. Give me 1 second and I'll put down the Playfield. Alright, yes, I know, I almost forgot to solder on that diode, but I didn't forget. It's soldered on, it's on there good. So when I had the whole pop assembly removed, I did clean the Playfield underneath, and you can see the difference between where the Mylar was and wasn't. So it's a nice clean look rather than the dirty old Mylar. Oh, look at that. This actually area of the Playfield is a little crustier than I thought now that I'm looking close. It's a little bit planked almost, and then dirt gets in there, just weathering over the years. But you would think the planking, okay, the planking probably carried over here, but it just doesn't, the dirt didn't get in, so it's not as noticeable. You can kind of see a little bit right there where it's white. But yeah, so I'll clean that up as best as I can when I get to that. But this is the new bulb and socket and the referee pop bumper cap. All pop caps appear to be good. Usually someone takes their fat fingers, squishes them too tight together to remove them, and breaks them. So it's rare that all four are not broken. We have no circuit boards, but what we do have is AC voltage directly from the transformer to the general illumination circuit, so we can test our pop bumper. Ready? There it is. We've got lights. Just the general illumination, all the bulbs that are on non-stop. But yeah, so there they are, and that's where I'm going to finish this episode. So maybe we'll call this one Sense of Accomplishment, because we haven't really had that feeling yet. You know, this is just the easy kind of mechanical cosmetic stuff that we did today. We as in me. I don't know why I'm calling me we or us, but hey, this is Pinball Shenanigans. What did you expect? Thanks for coming along for the ride. We'll see you on the next one.